Hi everyone, in today's video I'll be talking about the planets in the astrological natal chart. So the planets reflect our mind, body and spirit and are always in constant motion. So they reflect the different parts of our psyche. So you would have heard the saying, the part of us that thinks, or the part of us that feels, the head and the heart and all that kind of thing. So these are the planets in action. And a great way to really understand how they work is to see them from the bigger picture. Just like you would understand how the heart and the mind work together. And a good tool to use, or analogy I'll be using in this video, is the hat analogy. Each planet or a different part of us we tap into at different moments in time, depending on our situation. And that's what we'll be using in this video. So the different hats that we wear are based on our actions, moods, and life circumstances as well. And internally, we might have a different thought or feeling about something. When that occurs, we're putting on a different hat. Externally, we might come across a different situation, we put on a different hat. So it works like that. It's both internal and external. And a good way to understand this is by giving a few examples, of course. So when thinking logically, for example, if we have to tap into our logic, we put on our Mercury hat and anything that requires logic. When taking action, we need to put on our Mars hat and anything that takes action. So it works like that. Different circumstances reflect different planets. And the four categories of planets, or hats in this case, or parts of us, can be represented as follows. So the first category, the most important, are the luminaries, and they're the sun and the moon. And the luminaries represents our mind. The second category, second most important, are what's called the personal planets, Mercury, Venus and Mars. And they represent our daily life. So the luminaries and the personal planets are the most personal to us out of all the planets in the groups here. So the very individual, if you like, if you will. And then we have what's called the social planets. They represent society views, society perspectives, and where we stand in society as well. It represents our own growth, how we fit in, what we're required to do or responsibility, and how we evolve and grow as well. And then we have what's called the transpersonal planets. They're Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. By the way, with the social planets, we've got Jupiter and Saturn, just forgot to mention that. And the transpersonal planets, again, we've got Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And they represent our growth as well, but from more of an evolutionary and transformative perspective. So these are very spiritual planets, high vibrational, if you will. So moving on, let's look at the first group known as luminaries. So they represent our mind. And the first luminary, the most important that you've all heard about, is the sun. And this is called our identity hat. And it represents our conscious mind, our self-expression, our vitality, and our purpose. And the sun represents light. So metaphorically, it's what we see within ourselves and on the outside. So if you have a particular dream that you want to manifest, that's the sun in action. You're seeing, you're visualizing. Meditation, you visualize a light, you visualize your dream holiday, whatever it is, that's the sun in action, it's consciousness. And likewise, in the outside world, around you, you see with your eyes. So that's the sun in action as well, light. So it's light within, light without too. And then moving on to the next planetary, we have the moon. And that's called our feeling hat. So the moon represents our unconscious mind, our emotions, our intuition, and it's our memory. So I like to look at it as our feedback mechanism. So you would have heard the saying, I've got a gut feeling about something, or I'm getting off vibes about that particular person. That's your moon in action right there. So it's that feeling that we all get, or that feeling that we're tapping into. And both the sun and moon work together in that kind of way. And this is our mind in action at the core. So moving on to the next group, we've got the personal planets. And they represent our everyday habits. So day-to-day stuff. So Mercury represents our thinking hat. So you would have heard the saying, put your thinking cap on and let's solve the problem. That fits in with Mercury here. And Mercury is all about communication, logic, and learning. So whenever you need to communicate, whenever you need to use logic or common sense, as you've heard, or you need to learn something new, that's Mercury tapping into. You're tapping into. And then we have what's called Venus. This represents the things that we enjoy doing and things that feel good. So everything to do with pleasure, beauty, and relationships. So those moments where you feel like getting an ice cream or going on a date or doing anything that's positive and that feels good, that's represented by Venus, and it's our love hat. And then we have what's called Mars, our action hat. So Mars is all about our ambition, our energy, and our assertiveness and our ability to act. So whenever we need to act, we put that cap on. For example, if you're off to work one day and you're late for the bus, and you need to really move to not miss the bus, you have to move. You have to put your Mars hat on and move and really get into action, put that energy into it so you don't miss it. It's the same kind of thing. So it's your output, if you will. And these three planets are the most personal in our chart, and we deal with them every day. So personal is in Monday to Friday, the daily grind kind of thing as well. So they're the personal planets, and they work in conjunction with the luminaries. So these planets are like the subordinates of the luminaries, if you will. And both the luminaries and the personal planets are the most personal. They describe us on the surface and on the inside too. And then we have what's called the social planets, and they reflect our growth and our responsibility. So Jupiter represents our growth in life. So where we want to expand, where we want to grow into. For example, if you're working in a job, you want to progress into another job that's more fulfilling or that's more expansive. It's that kind of thing. So whenever you've got the dream to win over that promotion that you want to work hard for, that's Jupiter in action. This works in with the Sun. The Sun is all about that dream, to have that dream job, but Jupiter is all about the wisdom behind making that happen. So that's Jupiter. And then we have what's called Saturn, which is our responsibility hat. And Saturn is all about discipline, structure, challenges that we come across from time to time. And whenever we come across a challenge or we need to do things that we don't want to do, which are for our own benefit in the long term, they reflect the Saturn archetype. And Saturn also reflects the concept of cause and effect. So the energy and action that you put in now will reflect what you do in the long term. So it's that concept of cause and effect and discipline. So that's Saturn right there. And then we have what's called the transpersonal planets. So these are our evolutionary hats, or the spiritual hats, if you will. And we've got Uranus, known as our genius hat. So this is where we're innovative, where we want to change, where we want to rebel as well. A good example of putting the genius hat on is thinking outside the box, and technology, especially with Apple, the iPhone. That's very much a Uranus kind of thing. And you all would have heard when you go to Apple at some point to get your phone fixed, you go to the Genius Bar, and that's a very Uranus kind of way of thinking, which is think different, or technology in general as well. By the way, think different is an Apple saying too. So they really are bringing out that Uranus archetype. But in terms of ourselves, it's the way we bring out our uniqueness. It's how we step out of the box, if you will, or break the rules from time to time for the benefit of ourselves and for others. So that's Uranus. So whenever we want to do that, we put our genius hat on. And then we have what's called Neptune, our mystic hat. So Neptune represents dreams, intuition, illusion, Whenever you go see a psychic, or whenever you go to a meditation class and you want to have that deep connection to source, or that deep sense of that deep mystic experience, you're tapping into Neptune, you're putting on the mystic hat. So that's Neptune right there. And then we have what's called Pluto. Pluto is the Phoenix hat. So this is all about transformation, personal power, and rebirth. So the before and after kind of thing. And these are Pluto represents the part of us that we need to kill off and be born into to replace that part of us that has died. So that's what Pluto is all about. So what I'm going to do now is a little exercise where all of the planets come to life. And what I've got here is a table. So on the left side, we've got a situation known as when you are ... On the right side, we've got the situation and the planet that relates to that situation. So I'll just explain what I mean. It would be more clear. So when you are getting ready during the morning routine to go to work, you're tapping into your moon hat for comfort and for tapping into what your needs are. So moon is all about feelings, like what to wear, getting your breakfast ready. It's all that kind of thing. So that's the moon that you're tapping into. Moon is all about nurturing and your needs. So that's another meaning for the moon too. So basically, whenever you're encountering that, you're switching into that planetary energy. Another example is when you're at work and you're trying to solve a problem, you're putting on your Mercury hat. And to solve a problem, you need to communicate and you need to analyze. How do I get from point A to point B? So you put your thinking cap on, so to speak. Another situation, when you are having fun or going on a date, which I've mentioned before, you're putting on your Venus hat. And Venus is all about how I enjoy the experience that I'm involved in. Facing a challenge. This is where so let's just say you got a challenge, you need to take action to correct the challenge. We tap into our Saturn and Mars hats. So we're active and we're persevering towards a solution. So Mercury would come into play here, but Saturn and Mars are the heavy lifters, and they push Mercury into the right direction to resolve the issue. So that's how three planets work together. So Saturn is all about the challenge, what needs to be done. Mars is all about the action, how to actually do it or doing it, and Mercury is all about the logic of piecing it all together. So that's three planets in action right there. And finally, having a spiritual moment. So as I mentioned, Neptune is the spiritual hat that we put on, or the mystic hat, and that's all about going beyond the five senses as well. So those experiential, spiritual experiences. So if you were to go to a retreat and you come back and you've got this sense of being a new person or having this incredible experience, you're tapping into Neptune. So you're coming out of the day-to-day five sense human experience, and you're tapping into source, if you will. So that's how Neptune works. And that's mainly it. So a question, what I would ask you, the viewer, is which planet do you mainly tap into, or which hat do you wear most of the time? So that's a good question to ask yourself, because normally the planet that you tap into most is where your chart is configured to be set up in. And just to recap, the planets represent the different parts of our psyche, and we switch from each one depending on our circumstances. And that's pretty much it with planets. So if you've got any questions, got any comments, please put them below. Feel free to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for further videos. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Take care. Bye.